Happy Wednesday. So today we are hanging out with Espree Devora. She is the host of Women in Tech podcast. She is super prolific in Los Angeles for all things tech and all things women. She's got maybe 700 plus episodes of her podcast, and she's all over. I don't know if you guys know, she was the face of Clubhouse when the app launched. So her photo was the logo icon of the app. So if you had that on your phone, it was her. I'm gonna ask her all things like her dreams and her when I grow up stuff, but also I want to get into some challenges because she's been super consistent on posting content, on launching multiple businesses. She's an entrepreneur at heart, so she's always doing something and has her hands just in so many different businesses at one time. So I want to ask her those questions. Thanks for joining in. I see all of you guys coming in. Stalk her LinkedIn and you might get inspired, or you might feel a little bit of oh my gosh, how do I level up to her, where she's at in her business. So let's get into that. And I'm going to add her right up here. Thank you. Making my notes. Hello. Perfect. And then, I'll let it load and
Hi!
Let's, hey, how are you?
Oh my gosh. Okay, founder faux pas. I was giving this little mini talk, and even in the mini talk, I was like, you guys have to go right before 12:15. So everyone, hello, founder faux pas. I totally
No worries. It's so funny. For those of you that don't know, I was hanging out live with some of you guys, just talking and answering your questions, and but now we are live. We got this. Let's run through it. But no, you're totally fine. And guys, this is real life. This is Instagram Live. No one cares. Let's keep it casual. But I want to dive in because honestly, yes, you're giving talks all the time. You're helping people all the time. So why don't we talk about you a little bit and pull back from the day-to-day work and get back into your childhood for a hot second, because
let's go.
I want to end with some tips and tricks. We've been talking in email, and I know some hot stuff you want to share. So what was your when I grew up dream? Because this is a fun one. I feel like it's not talked about that often, and it kind of sheds light on the overall person.
You know what's funny is when I was little, I wanted to be a founder. That was my when I grew up. But there was this moment when I was in early high school, and I was on my balcony, and I was looking out and I was thinking anything is possible. I just remember that moment where I felt like I could create my world. And I think that moment becomes harder to hold on to the older we get. Mm-hmm. And I just reflect back on that moment as a teenager where I genuinely believed anything I wanted to create was possible. And so I think that's really important for us to embrace throughout.
I 100% agree. Please let me know if you can hear me, because
I can hear you.
Okay, good.
Yeah, it was buffering for a second, but you're good.
Great.
My brain was buffering. Your internet was buffering.
We're all connecting. Everything's buffering. Okay, so can I ask you, not to get into child psychology, but are your parents entrepreneurs? Did they have corporate jobs? How did you at a young age know, I want to be a founder? To me, what kind of kid is
so I didn't know that word.
Awesome.
I didn't know the word founder. I just I remember walking in. I remember walking into Westwood Village with my dad, and I would look into empty office buildings and daydream about the businesses that I would want to put in them. And I would tell my dad, oh, that should be a t-shirt with these kinds of cartoons on it, or whatever it was. And my mom was a professional speaker, still is, and my dad had a business and had a home office. So I was surrounded by the entrepreneurial energy. I don't think to the extent that I am an entrepreneur, super gung-ho, but yeah, I think I had examples of what a lifestyle without rules could look like. Mm-hmm. I mean, we have a lot of rules as founders, but it's funny. One of my friends says entrepreneurs are the only set of people who work 80 hours a week in order to avoid working 40 hours a week.
Oh my gosh, it's so true though. Your friend is a genius. But
Yeah.
here's the sad thing. I was talking to someone on Friday. It's like, gosh, you don't realize you work that much and then it's on your brain that much until someone points it out and you're like, oh my gosh, you're right. I think about my business all day long. And it's healthy and unhealthy if depending on what
Completely.
stage of the month or the work week you're in. But I love that you said that. Oh my gosh. So accurate. Okay, so like you've done a million things. It's so like I get imposter syndrome looking at your resume. I'm like, what have
Oh
I
my
even
gosh, you're
done?
so
It's like,
cute.
do you ever sleep? So for those of us that are similar to you, we're always dreaming of businesses, we're always having something that we want to do, but we're working on 7 projects, so we can't add
Right.
anything else to our plate. When you have these fresh ideas and when you're looking at these new businesses or you have new things you want to try, how are you putting them in action without dropping this is completely off the questions I sent you, but like, how are you putting those big dreams for the future, like keeping them fresh without dropping everything you're working on right now? Because I know you and I know you have a
Totally.
ton of businesses that you want to start. So like, what is your process beyond that?
If I had to give guidance to myself when I was starting out, there'd be a few core principles. And I think these guiding principles is what leads to being able to achieve anything. And
Yeah.
so, one is consistency. Consistency has been really hard, especially because I'm a go big or go home kind of person.
Yes.
But I actually think there's this great book that inspired me that I read at the end of 2019, Atomic Habits by James
Yes.
Clear. He has one of my favorite Instagram accounts too. So great. And
Okay.
he shares even doing things for 2 minutes a day makes a huge impact over time. And it's true. When I just give 2 minutes to get the thing done, 3 minutes of meditation, just little tiny spurts, but doing them consistently, projects actually do get completed. Whereas
Yeah.
I'm like, I have to do the whole thing in the same day. It's procrastination nation, you know?
Yes.
And so consistency is a huge thing.
Yeah.
Follow up is huge
Oof.
because we're only as powerful as our network. And our
Mm-hmm.
network leads to opportunities, sometimes unbeknownst to us. Like, for example, there's so many people who would like to be customers of mine now who discovered me years ago when I was giving some free talk.
No
And,
way.
so it's just
See,
like, go
let's
ahead.
touch on that
Yeah.
because clients that I talk to, people in our circles, it's like, but nothing's happened yet, and I've been doing this for 2 years. But listen to
Yeah.
what you just said. Clients that heard you many, many years ago are now finally reaching out to you to work with you. So some people just have that slow build. Can you expand on that? Because I think it's
Well,
important for all of us.
yes, but also it's not just a slow build, it's about us and providing an offer that really solves something that's needed at a price point that is right for that market. So it's
Yeah.
not simply like if I never offered, or if I offered the thing that doesn't relate, there's not going to be any commerce done. And so it's really about understanding what you're offering, understanding who your market is, and understanding that the price point matches that market and that it truly does solve something for them. So I do think there's a lot of power in doing the things that we do that sometimes don't make any sense. I did one today that literally my response, I got asked I'm just going to be really candid. I
Good.
got asked, will I contribute an insight about podcasting to someone's book? My question, because I'm working on value, was, are you charging for the book? And
Yeah.
then they said, yes. And I said, sincere question for you. Literally, this happened in the last 24 hours. Sincere
Yeah.
question. What are your thoughts that I'd be giving you my insights pro bono when you're making money off of the book?
Whoa.
Right?
Uh-huh.
It was a genuine question, one that I'm still trying to understand myself. And then
Yes.
they had a response. It's not important. But the idea is, I do think it's really confusing as content creators where the boundaries are between being elevated with likes or whatever, or like the possibility of notoriety
Yeah.
versus being financially valued for our time. And I think that is very confusing.
Mm.
And it gets even more confusing when I hear people who have been following me for years that I was not aware were following me for years all of a sudden become a customer. I was like,
Yeah.
okay, now that makes sense. But for like 6 years, that made no sense at all.
Right.
So it's being a content creator is really, really, we need to set boundaries and we need
Yes.
to understand what's okay with us,
Yes.
and we need to experiment. But we really need to make sure that we understand the core of how our business operates from a sustainability, like a financial sustainability angle,
Yes.
and make sure that sustainability is being covered first and foremost, or we simply can't exist. We can't just keep writing a blog post and nothing's going to happen.
No, agreed. And followers, like it's so coming from the artist perspective, alongside the content creators, alongside all of these women that have done a business and they're coaching. I love that you're bringing this up because you can give so much free content, but then how are you paying your bills? And I know that's annoying to talk about, but the fact that you stopped and thought, okay, yes, but if you're profiting off of my insight, what's happening here? And the fact that you were able to stop and ask that, I think, is huge. So a question around that: do you have a coach or somebody that is pushing you to think that way? Because that's not natural. Okay, you do.
Yes.
And can you talk about that?
Yeah, sure. It's a pain point because I have self-worth issues and I have value issues, and a lot of people want a lot from me.
Yes.
Pro bono, and it's not okay.
No.
And now with this particular thing, like I did end up giving my insights to take the chance. They came back to me with like a philosophical answer. I don't have any answers myself yet, but I'd like to know the answer to this question in general. But it reminded me of when I built the first action sports social network, and it reminded me of photographers back then and how photographers would be like, you should just do it pro bono because you're going to get to be with Tony Hawk. You know, like, no, this is a photographer. How are they supposed to like pay their rent and you're like taking their talent? It's a thing that comes up with content creators. It's come up for like ages, right?
Yeah.
And so, I do have coaches. I have one, Cam Kashani, who's amazing. Definitely check out Cam Kashani on Instagram. Okay. She really helps me further explore that what I love that she does is she says, it's not that people aren't valuing you, it's that you're not valuing yourself.
Yeah.
And then I'm putting myself in situations where I am not valuing myself because no one can take from me something that I'm not giving.
Ooh, well, hold on. Say that again. No one can
take from me something that I'm not giving.
Yes. Wow.
So I just want to become more cognizant of choices that I'm making. How many times as content creators have we been asked to speak at a conference, to do this, the list goes on of this like pro bono, digital street cred world. Like at what point
do you stop?
Are you like, does Gary Vee do speeches for free? No. You know, he gets paid a bucket load of money. And one of my friends in the Black community, he says something that I really appreciate. He's like, when I'm doing a deal, I ask myself, what would a white man do? And I'm like, and I'm not about like gender or races and stuff, but I think that is a great, like, what would someone who truly values themselves without any restriction, how do they value themselves in time?
Wow.
And, and so to take my childhood worth issues out of it, to take my limiting self-beliefs out of it, to take everything out of it, what led me to have the courage, and it definitely was the first time I ever asked that, and it was courageous for me, and I was scared to be able to ask that question. The first time asking that question yesterday, to me, was a step, like you mentioned, a step in the right direction where I'm like, my time is valuable. My intelligence is valuable. I am valuable. So what is the situation happening right here? Right. So we could be on the same page together.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And I think this is something too that we can talk about in forever and ever is giving value, like all the value you can give, yes, but in the end, it's all leading to a place of, if you found this value this valuable, work with me. I offer these things. But what's hard for you as a content creator is technically you don't have a tangible good or like product or like specifically for your podcast and your writing and things like that. So it's hard, like you said, and I know a lot of people are in the same position where they don't physically have a product. They can be like, okay, yes, this is my value. Please purchase this now that we've done this.
Right.
Or here is my service. But when you're creating content or influencers or people that are the face of their brand doing all this stuff, it's like, it's impossible. So totally. I love that you talked
but even
about
that.
Yeah.
But even that, sorry to interrupt for a second, even that, I feel like there's something unfortunate about like service providers where they're only doing the quote unquote free webinar to get the sale. Ooh. It feels like you're not authentically helping.
Yes.
You know, like I'm talking about as an industry as a whole, like these service practitioners aren't authentically helping because they're only trying to do the webinar to get you into the funnel to convert you into a sale. Whereas like legit everything that I do is to authentically help. I don't have an end game. That being said, I don't think that's good either. I think there needs to be a balance. Mm-hmm. Of authenticity and sustainability. I'm not sure yet what that balance looks like, but it's not good to be giving so much that it's and not being sustainable. And I also just find it a little bit icky that you're only allegedly helping me because you want something from me.
Yes. So I love that you called that out. So sustainability, but I think the key then is it's hard to do it on our own. So one, you have a coach. Two, you're in communities, right? Are you in communities where you're throwing these things against the group and asking them for help and insight? And if so, are there some that you love that we should join? Because I think speaking like this, like you and I are, with people that we trust that maybe aren't our friends or family because they're not in the specific space we're in, like who are you going to with these thoughts and ideas?
You know, I don't feel that there's a lot of community for this kind of conversation. I really go to Cam Kashani. I do. Like I'd say a combination of paying attention to how Iman Gadji, I can never pronounce his last name. It's like Gadzi. Mm-hmm. He's a friend and a mentor, and I really admire
friend and mentor. That's incredible.
Yeah. Oh, you know him.
Some high people in your circle. Yeah.
So like I admire how he conducts his business and how he conducts his life and how he values himself, but how he also has respect for his community and for his staff. Yeah. And so I look to him for an example of what's possible. Mm-hmm. And then I look to Cam for lessons and guidance to pierce through my own BS.
Oof. And also mindset, because you've mentioned a few times, and we should close, but you've mentioned a few times your childhood, things like that. That can definitely affect how we run our business and the ideas we come up with if we have limiting beliefs. No matter how incredible your friends, family, like parents were, there's these own.
I hear you, so you're okay.
There we go. My husband's AirPods.
I hear you, so you're okay.
Co-work, so it's a thing. Okay, good. That's a whole thing. So one, just throwing this out there, the mindset stuff, someone was hosting a talk on Clubhouse. So go on Clubhouse. We love it. Everyone should be on Clubhouse. If you're not, what are you doing? But on Clubhouse, someone hosted a mindset and all about money and your issues surrounding making money and saving money and generating money and all the annoying stuff that us artists hate talking about. But I think that's something huge, and I love that you brought it up. And, you know, if we had more time, I'd want to dive in, but they can follow you. You've talked about this many, many times before on your podcast and stuff. But can you tell us, to close, what exciting things we should be watching from you, what's coming up that we should be paying attention to, and just like how we can join in your community?
Oh, I love it. Yeah, definitely just follow me on Instagram. I have the Women in Tech podcast, and I have the We Are LA Tech podcast. I'm at Espree Devora on my normal name
and on Clubhouse.
And I'm at Espree on Clubhouse, so say hello there. Really just know that you're not alone in the journey. If you want to reach out and say hi, Espree@hey.com, ESPRE@HEY.com. And being a founder, being a content creator, it's not as glamorized as it seems through Photoshop. And so know that like we're all on our own journey, and no matter how big someone seems, we all have our own set of challenges at all different levels. And it's okay to be human.
Yeah.
Like I give you permission to be human, and remember to meditate.
Ooh, that's good. Oh, really quick. Because I used to have Headspace, but now I've heard of Calm and like the mindfulness app. So are you still loving Headspace? Should I resubscribe?
Well, whichever one is right for you. I think different people gravitate to different ones for their voices or stuff like that. Usually it's a voice thing. Okay. So I'm pretty much into Andy, the founder's voice on Headspace. Like so they have new people now, and I'm like, no.
Whoa, where's my guy?
Andy.
Yeah. I agree with you. Okay, I love it because it was literally yesterday. I was like, okay, do I resubscribe? Should I look at some other hip ones? But yeah, you're right. I love Headspace. Just stick with what works. Okay, Espree, this was awesome. Thank you so much, you guys. I'll post this on my feed, so if you do have questions for her, I'll relay anything to her. So if you're joining a podcast or creating a business and you need help, just send me a DM and I'll forward it along. Thank you.
The main thing to put me into your bucket, the main thing is if you have questions on how to podcast, just let me know.
That's what fills you up. Okay, awesome. You heard it from her. Thanks, you guys. Bye.
Bye.